there used to be people who, in the days of mechanical machines, could actually rhythm the machines and bring up the symbols they wanted, because there was a kind of, initially there was a kind of a flaw in the machine, because the way the mechanical machines worked is that when you pulled the handle, all the energy that went into that machine, you put into the machine by pulling the handle. That was you doing all the work. And when you pulled that handle, there was a timing bar that was pulled across under the base of the machine. It was spring-loaded, so that when you had that click and the reels were spun, that bar was released, but it couldn't snap back because it was working against a clock, much like the dial on a telephone. Okay? So the bar would hit that timer, and it had a butterfly on the top where it could only spin so fast, and the bar would come back slowly, and as it came back, it would stop the reels in sequence, slam home the sensor fingers that told the machine whether you had a winner or not, and if you had a winner, kick the slides out of the bottom of the tube and move so many coins over to the drop hole. And when it went back again, the stack of coins would drop and it was ready to pay again. Okay, the problem was that when it was finished doing all of its machinations, there was still time left on the clock. And this governed how long it would take for the reels to stop on the next pull of the handle. If you pulled the handle quickly, the reels would stop faster. And if you waited longer, the reels would take more time to stop. And if you knew the reel strips, if you knew the symbol distribution on the reels, you could actually rhythm the machine to where my bell is down there, I want it on the line, I'm going to have to pull it more quickly so the reels will stop faster and the bell will come up on the line. He walks into a casino in 1940, downtown Las Vegas, and he starts to play a Mills high top. It was a brand new style of Mills machine. And he's playing it for about 15 minutes. He drained the coin tube, hit the jackpot. He gathered up his stuff in a coin tray, and he goes over to the next machine, does the same thing. And he cleans out about half a dozen machines, and we're talking $50 machines now. Okay, not the nickel machines. And he cashes in and he walks out the door, and security has really been watching this guy. What's going on here? Well, he went across the street from the Fremont, where he pulled his trick, to the Horseshoe, and does the same damn thing. Then he walks across the street to the Mint. It was down the street to the Mint. And he does the same thing before he leaves town. Meanwhile, there's this big buzz among the managers of these casinos. What the heck is going on here? So as soon as he was gone, they took the machines into the slot shop. They're looking for drilled holes. They're looking for anything that he might have done to the machines that enabled him to win. They got pictures of him, and they were on the look. He shows up here again. I want to know about it. And sure enough, 3 months later, here he is, back in the Golden Nugget. So he's playing his machine. Of course, he goes through the first machine, empties it, goes to the next machine, and suddenly he has got this little crowd of guys around him. You can tell they're security because they've only got one eyebrow, okay? And they got band-aids on their knuckles because they drag on the pavement. The management would like to talk with you, all right? So, okay, up he goes to the manager's office with his pot of coin. And the manager says very simply, "What the hell are you doing? How are you beating these machines?" He says, "I'm just playing the machines. That's all I'm doing." Nobody walks in and drains a half dozen machines, then goes across to another casino, does the same thing. It just doesn't work that way. These machines have been around for 30 years. Nobody has done this. What are you doing? And he sees that he's in a bit of a bind here because, this was not mob run or anything like that, but he could see he could wind up in some serious trouble if he doesn't do something. So he says, "All right. The fact is," he says, "there isn't a machine you got in the place I can't beat." I don't believe it. Well, would you believe it if we had a wager? Say for $10,000? This is 1940. $10,000 is a ton of money. And the manager says, "Okay, we'll do a deal. You've got your $10,000 bet. All right? But needless to say, if you lose, you better come up with that 10 grand. No problem, none at all. So they brought in a brand new Mills machine right out of the crate, filled it with quarters, let this guy have at it. And he's going on with this casual conversation while he's playing the machine. And in the midst of the conversation, he says, "2 cherries." And click, click, and there's the 2 cherries. Okay. So you got lucky. Now what? He goes on playing the machine, carrying on this side conversation with everybody in the room. And in the midst of the conversation, 3 oranges. Click, 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 and there's the 3 oranges. By now, the manager is getting a bit nervous, but let's see just how far he can go. So, takes him a little while longer, and he says, "Jackpot!" Bar, bar, bar. Drops the jackpot. Okay, you won the bet. But what the hell are you doing? We got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, we're looking at the end of this industry. Because if you can do it, anybody can do it. He says, "Yes, anybody could do it. And I know exactly how, and I do it." "Well, how is the how?" He said, "Well, I just finished a 10-year stint working at Mills. And in those days, the machines were not percentaged at the casino. They were percentaged in the Mills factory. And you could buy a machine of this percentage or this percentage or this percentage. And that depended on the distribution of the symbols on the reels. He had memorized all of the sequences of the symbols on all of the reels in the machines. There were about a dozen of them, a dozen sets of reels. He even had the 4-reelers understood, but he was never able to rhythm a 4-reel machine. But he still got the 3 reels. And he explained to them the mechanics of how you rhythm a machine when you know the symbols on the reels. He got his $10,000, and then they carried on an additional conversation. "Okay, what do you suggest? How do we keep this industry from dying on the vine like right now?" He says, "Well, I happen to have an answer to that too. It's a little device called a variator." "Okay, what's that all about?" And they got together and they worked up a deal for the 3 primary slot machine companies. It was Mills and Jennings and Pace.